How's everybody doing today? It's gonna be a pretty cozy stream today. Howdy, Nick. I see people are fishing. Do I gotta get fishing for y'all? Is that what this is gonna be? Anyway, I guess I should do the introduction part of the stream. I am RM. I'm a seagull. I have a CISSP, and I trade my expertise for CEPs, hopefully. Hopefully I don't have to defend that this is CPE worthy. I keep transposing those letters. They know what I mean. I also changed how my mic is, so if there's some differences with the sound that are unpleasant, please let me know. How am I? Hopefully better. CPAP. Pap smear. Write down the vital info. He's a seagull. Yeah, I figured after I did the thing with Nero and I got my Fugi up and running that I might as well add it to my stream as well. So there is at least something going on that that is reactive. Lirio, who up smearing they pap? I'm already in the Pokedex. That's Wingull. We are definitely not having the audio track on the VOD today. That's for damn sure. I'm like, you know what? I need the dad music barbecue grill. I just want to grill, man. I just want to grill. They won't let me grill. Today we're talking about Jannies. And in more general terms, we're talking about insider threats. So that's the topic covered by one of the 8 domains today. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the concept of insider threats. Oh god, why are we already posting Clueless? It's not time for that yet. Oh, did I switch to... No, that's my line pin. Yeah, real G pin is fine. Oh, I've got it. It was on transparent. There we go. Yeah, yet. I love the rat. Inac. I love the rat emotes. So while I'm going to focus on Jannies, and for those of you watching who don't know what that is, Jannies means janitor, which means moderator. But when most people think insider threat, what they typically imagine is like some sort of intentionally malicious, deliberately bad actor. So in security, we don't think of insider threats that way. Insider threats are basically anything that people inside of your organization do that makes, what would you call it? That damages your company with their behavior. So that's like anything from a guy that clicks malicious links which is why... How many of you here are in Corpo Land, where they give you, like, security awareness trainings and stuff? Is anybody in here in that situation? Nick's in that situation. Well, the reason they do that is because of this guy right here. He's classified as an insider threat. This is why. Well, actually, I shouldn't say annual. Some people do it more than annually. But this dude right here is why you have security awareness training. This jackass. Is for this asshole. So he's a type of insider threat. But it also goes, Plaza says, technically not corporate, but we do regularly get phishing emails from IT to test competence. Yeah, that's also because of this fuckhead over here. This is people with, like, Karen cuts in HR. This is employees in boiler rooms. I told you guys about the guy I used to work with that had a 900 number dialer on his desktop. Did I tell y'all about that? Inax says, so if I get a job, I should click on every link sent to me at the job. I mean, yeah, if you don't want to have that job for more than a few hours, sure. But, for those of you who didn't hear it the first time, or... yeah. Sorry, guys, I'm a bit distracted. So, the way my day went was my truck started acting up, and then my refrigerator stopped working. So that's how my day has gone. I sent the wife and the kids off to, like, have dinner at some restaurant somewhere, so they wouldn't have to think about the fact that they just had to, like, clear out the fridge. And we'll talk about this later in security, because my wife did this thing where she knew what to do, right? She knew what to do. And then she deliberately didn't do it. And this is a very common response to, like, trauma. Because what she was thinking was, oh man, if I believe that I'm in the situation that I'm in, the thing I know to do is gonna cost me a lot of money. Can anybody guess what that thing was? Yeah, Nick, the truck and the fridge. Can you guess what she was reluctant to do even though she knew to do it? Based on she thought it would cost a lot of money? No, not call for repair. In fact, I've got it. The fridge is actually fixing itself right now. I managed to talk that out over the phone. I gotta correct some of these lines here while I wait for those answers. She wouldn't throw the food out. She didn't know how long the fridge wasn't cooling. She guessed it was sometime last night. I got this call like 3 hours ago. The kids complained like this morning about the ice maker leaking water. Or was it last night? It might have been last night even. So she knew the fridge was like having problems starting either early this morning or last night. And she was like busying herself trying to transfer the food from like the fridge and the freezer to the deep freezer. And I'm like, why are you doing that? You used to work food service. I know you know this. I know you know this. It's just like, and I'm not picking on her. This happened This happened with the mass shooting. No, it's not she knew that there was something wrong with the fridge and didn't say anything. It's just like, we thought maybe something got dislodged with the ice maker. Like, I think it was late at night. Like, it was time to tuck the kids into bed. It was one of those situations. Like, we knew something was acting funny, but we didn't know anything was, like, wrong yet. Inite says, I don't blame her. I always check the temp of the food. Yeah, fun thing about that is, like, she checked the temp of the food and said, oh, this is cold. But like, that's subjective. And when she did the 10-minute power reboot that I instructed her to do, after it was done booting back up, the internal temperature of the fridge side read 65 Fahrenheit. And anybody who works in food service knows that's a very bad temperature for that to be at. So... oh, thermogun. Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah, it was 65F. But, you know, at 65F, like in Florida, that milk still feels like ice, you know? Like, 65 Fahrenheit, after you walk indoors from 92, 93, I was like, oh yeah, that's still chilly. That's still good. Nah. Nope. Like, she has a thermogun she could have used, but what the thermogun would have said was, like, it's out of safe range, and she wouldn't have known how long it had been out of safe range, so you still gotta toss it. But, 64 is enough for a jacket? Yeah, actually, that's about when I start putting on the flannel, you know? But, like, not to pick on her, there was another recent example of this when I was in the lockdown for the mass shooting. So I'm going around and I'm checking doors, right? We're in lockdown, the sirens are going, and I walk next to a classroom. And somebody, like, it might have been the teacher, it might have been the student, sometimes that's actually hard to tell. And, they're like, they basically expressed a disbelief that it was a real thing. And when I told them it was a real thing, they're like, so what do we do? Do we stay in here? And I'm like, yeah, it's a lockdown. It's like their brains refuse to process this is happening. So even though you've trained them, right? Even though you've trained them, hey, when this happens, you do this. Their brain is still stuck on, okay, but this is bad, so I want to resist the idea that it's actually happening. Because if it's... a lot of people have, like, this weird process where they don't want the secondhand embarrassment of, like, going through the steps of what you do when X happens, just in case X didn't happen, because that would look foolish and embarrassing, is how that thought process goes. So, in order to not be embarrassed later from locking down for no reason, they were just sitting there waiting for somebody else to tell them to lock down and to tell them that it was real, even though they knew to do it. And it was not a test message. And sometimes we'll get, like, test fire drills, right? That's required. But all of the other emergency system tests are like a clear test message. You never ever use, like, tornadoes or, well, maybe in the middle of dry season you could use tornadoes, because that would just not be happening. But you don't use that anyway. You don't use active shooter for your test messages. You don't use those. Those are never ever used in system tests. But people were like, oh, is that a test message? Is this really happening? Should we lock down? It's like, yes, we're locked down. It's like, this is real. So, this is kind of like an example of that to a lesser degree. It's like, how would I represent that? Like, I know what to do. That is the shittiest brain ever. It's like, I know what to do. That's a punching box. That's a boxing glove. That is a strong bad brain. It's like, I'll stick to words. I know what to do. Oh, hat. What to do if X happens. Is X happening? And they never leave that stage. Inex says, my high school had test shooters, though. That's kind of based, honestly. Like, did they have people dressed up and LARPing with, like, paintball? That'd be pretty sick. Oh no! Where nobody was told? Nobody was told about the drill for the active shooter? That, oof. I'm not sure that's a call I would have made. Kind of funny, but that's not... I'm not sure that's a... Oh man, I can imagine the angry parent phone calls after that. Holy shit. That would have been some mad parents. If they even knew. 70-year-old anatomy teacher was shaking. Like, I imagine, dude. But like, yeah, that is what was going on. But we don't need that for today's discussion. Just nice little security tangent. I'm sure there's a word for the paralysis of, I don't want to believe the situation is happening so that I don't have to execute the training I have. Should have nailed people with stink bombs if they didn't follow standards. Absolutely. So yeah, your drills. Obviously, you want to still do drills. But if you do drills, you've got to make them real enough that when the real thing happens, people actually act. Traumatic denial? I don't know. It's not something I was actually required to learn. I could look it up. What is it called when you know what to do in a situation, but refuse to believe the situation is happening, so you don't do what you are trained to do? Bystander effect. I don't think that fits. But it's related. Free rider problem. Detour intervention. There's a lot. There's a lot. People are throwing this around. The Dunning-Kruger effect is even coming up for that search. I don't know. Hey, Saru, what's up? We're talking about insider threats. Saru probably knows this, actually. Saru probably knows the answer to this question. We're talking about the effect. We got on a tangent. We're talking about the effect where you train for something, but you don't execute that training because you don't believe the thing that you trained for is actually happening. What's his name? Paul Harrell covered that too. Not me teaching CT as level 2. Paul Harrell went over that. Because he was at like a shooting range or something. He was out in basically bumfuck nowhere with his truck with his buddy. And like they were getting shot at for some reason. And his buddy refused to believe they were being shot at, even though he was like a combat vet and knew exactly what to do. Oh, Vike's kicking your ass? That sucks, man. Yeah, I was just going over that. I was like, if you're gonna drill as realistic as possible. Working triggers with squibs. That's pretty cool. So yeah, we got on that tangent because my refrigerator failed, and or at least it had an uh-oh, and it had to be rebooted essentially. I hate smart devices because I can't get a good refrigerator that isn't smart. I have to get like the landlord special or a smart fridge. There is nothing in between. Saru does as well. Like, yeah, we know people do this. It's not a failing. It's like, it's just a psychological thing. Like, oh, well, you couldn't even hear the reports, so I think that's a bit different. But yeah, it's a human thing. Anyway, I think my fuel gauge is going, which is pretty bad. I thought like, oh my god, did I just get scammed at a new pump? Because like I went to a brand new gas station, right? And I wasn't entirely present. So when it automatically cut off, I just went, and then I noticed that my fuel gauge was exactly where it was when I got there. And it took it like 40 minutes of driving to just like steadily get to where it was reflecting that I had a full tank. So something's fucked up somewhere. Oh, hey waifu, what's up? We haven't gotten to where we're talking about mods yet. We're talking about the refrigerator. The kids having fun? Let's see. So yeah, that's an insider threat. So in retail, the insider threat is going to be like a few things. It can be the guy stealing food to eat. That was me at one point, actually. I worked for like a grocery store, and they didn't really pay me enough to eat well. So sometimes I like stole snacks and shit without paying for them. So yeah, that was me, the insider threat. But then there's the guy who's at like, he's in receiving. We all know what receiving is, right? Do I have to explain what receiving is? Lirio says, I stole the day-old donuts they were going to throw away. Yeah, exactly. Like, the fried chicken had, like, a 2-hour shelf life, and then we had to throw it out, whether anybody bought it or not. I usually ate stuff like that, but some days when I was feeling mean, I would steal Little Debbie snacks from the Little Debbie vendor, because fuck them. I didn't like how that was written. And then I proceed to fuck it up even more. But yeah, like, hungry people steal. And I don't blame them. But that's insider threat, and there it is. Let's see. Well, I hope your tenders are good, sweetheart. Are you getting chicken tendies with your good boy points? Waifu's buying tendies with GBP. So, receiving is basically the room the truck shows up at. So, like, that's where the truck docks to the building. Or otherwise puts product into the building, because, like, some buildings don't have full truck docks. Oh, yeah! We can... Is that... That's an... That's not an insider threat, Saru. That's an inside her threat. That's different. I mean, it does. I'm just making dad jokes with insider threat. But yeah. Yeah, that becomes an insider threat. It's like, that's kind of like a hybrid threat, right? Because usually that's to get information out of an insider. But that's more of a... We understand that to be more of a social engineering attack than anything. They can. But in CyberSec, this is how we treat that. In CyberSec, we would treat somebody seducing an insider to get information out of them as a social engineering attack. Yeah, that's absolutely why employee finances are watched. Women spies want to drain their targets of valuable resources. Absolutely. Bro, imagine it's the era. Actually, I don't have to imagine. Sorry, do you know that, like, was it Joint Chiefs level guy in the Navy who was compromised by a woman like that? It was recent. It was like in the last decade or so, last decade and a half. We had a pretty high up military official compromised by Hull. Oh, I got a Badoop. Oh, not important. Well, there's a congressman named Eric. Well, yeah, but I don't think women is involved with Eric, is it? Are they? I think that's just Eric doing Eric things. Who was that? I'm gonna look that up now. More tangenting, but it's still security related. Navy official compromised by woman spy. There was well, the AI is focusing on a Navy nuclear engineer. I'm not seeing the old stories. Navy official told, let's see, top Navy official leaked secrets to mistress. Let's see that. Oh yeah, General Petraeus. David Petraeus. That wasn't Navy, that was Army. David Petraeus got by a mistress. Yeah. Not Navy. I don't know why I thought he was Navy. David Petraeus. I remember after that, a lot of service members were calling him, like, David Betrayus. That's why I wrote it down, INAC, because that's such an easy joke to make with his name. But yeah, like, according to the story, he's like, oh, he was deeply apologetic. Dude, anybody in the E ranks, anybody under 05, really, would be in jail. Anybody under 05 would be in jail. Permanently. Like, forever. Oh yeah, he got absolutely nothing. So, like, I guess if you're important enough, you can't be an insider threat. That's what the military taught me. That's what Hillary Clinton taught me. Ba, ba, ba. Let's see. So, receiving truck docks, or receiving is the area where you receive trucks. Sometimes there's more than one. Like, the grocery store I worked at, like, the main area we received trucks in was actually not the receiving department. It was in the secondary set of doors, because that's where the vendors came in. and the vendors needed to be watched a lot more closely than the company trucks did. And that's where we're stealing the Little Debbies from. But the that's a place where, like, if your receiving manager is compromised, or if somebody who is not your receiving manager grabs the keys, you can just pull up a box truck and just load it up and drive off. So, that's a common insider threat in retail. Obviously, you have boosters. You have the people at the register aiding, like, scan skipping. There's all sorts of front-end scams, usually involving somebody the cashier knows. That's why they check to see if you have any family working for the company before you become some sort of front-end person, because that's a very common thing, is to just, like, scan family members. It's also called underscanning, but it's like the same concept. I'm not sure that's very effective anymore. You could also give them inappropriate change. I'm not sure that's good anymore because of how many major retailers are using, like, AI cameras that are very, very effective in nailing that behavior. Yeah, the temporary credit cards or gift cards. Yeah, absolutely. So that's like an insider threat. We'll get to the streamer related part of this, the topic itself. I just wanted to set up what insider threats are in relation to cybersecurity. But we're gonna erase this now and get started on today's topic. Oh, I gotta start working on, like, drawing Pepes, because now I want to draw, like, a Janny, or, like, the dog-faced Janny. Oh, I can't draw a dog at all. Oh, no, we're not doing that. Maybe a broom. Maybe a broom. That character from Arthur. It's iconic, man. Jannies. They do it for free. Saru says, even unattentive employees just plugging in thumb drives into company PCs. Absolutely. There's also the one where you force them to do it by threatening their family in the parking lot. It's like, I better see this on the network in 5 minutes, or the people who live here will have a bad time. And then they show you a picture of your house. A live picture, usually, like a feed. So this is going to come up in a bit. So when you are selecting your moderators, this is like, you've got your circles, right? You've got everyone not in your community. Right? And they exist outside of here. That's supposed to be a circle, but it's, you know, it's gonna kind of become an oppression, all of it looks like. So then you've got your community. Nope. That's not near enough. Ah! That's not near enough I'm glad I'm not capturing the monitor. That just opened a bunch of shit. You got your community. That's good enough. And then you've got Lena's favorite color. You've got... Oh, you can't see that at all. Let's see. You've got your mods. Nah, actually, this color I'll put as, like... You've got your regulars. Your whales also go here. This is why orcas are dangerous, by the way, is because they're not in this layer or this layer. They're like 3 layers in. And then... Oh, let me color pick that. Son of a bitch. I think it was this one. Then you've got your modmins, which is your mods and your admins. And we'll get into why you should probably separate those later. And then you have you. That is your innermost vulnerable state. Nobody's as big of an insider threat as you. You know everything about you. PTSD for what, Hynek? Oh, modmins? If I put a slash there, would that make you feel better? Yeah. I worked it out. You know what? You're right, Hynek. You're right. I'll just fix this. I'll fix this. Mods and admins. Just label them clowns. We'll get to that. So this is generally how, like, your what would you call this? Call this the vulnerability jawbreaker. This represents the level of access that people typically get. So, like, you've got everybody who's not in your community. That should be self-explanatory. These are the people that, like, you're trying to bring into your community. And a lot of people actually stop at that level. You might not even call that community right away. You might call that audience, right? This is also your audience. Those are different things, but that's not in the scope of this stream. Audience and community are not the same thing. But that's more of a business strategy kind of stream, and that's not what we are. We're a security stream, though I do have opinions on it. So then you're trying to get these guys here. And these guys, you might not give them any more access, but by virtue that the regulars are more attentive, they're watching more streams, the whales are probably also doing that, whether they're actual whales or orcas, and we discussed orcas last stream. They have access to more information on you because, like, not everything ends up in the clips. Like, I have yet to see a clip channel where it's like, every time this streamer mentioned where they live. I haven't seen one of those. I have seen, like, every time this streamer said penis. And you know that tends to be what the clippers go for. So if you're in the regular whales category, you're seeing a lot of streams. You're catching a lot more of the streams that don't become VODs because you fucked up and said something you shouldn't about your personal information. INAC says that clip channel will get flooded with hate. I absolutely agree. Whoever made that clip compilation would be canceled pretty quick. It wouldn't mean that they would be forced to take it down, but they'd be ostracized pretty good. By the way, audiences for VTubers are very well behaved, because that is totally something that could happen. That is totally a thing that could happen that, as far as I know, hasn't happened. People will release, you know, docs elsewhere, and they generally don't come from the streamer's own mouth, and it's like usually some part of the lightest part of the dark web, if you catch my drift. But oh yeah, they'd be savaged. They wouldn't be allowed to like participate in communities openly. It would be some untraceable alt or something, and they could never really fuck that up. But that's why they have more access to you, because they're watching more streams, so they're catching more of your mistakes, they're catching more of your, what would you call it? They're catching more of your candid moments. So they're going to know more about you than your general community. And then the mods have whatever it is you give them, but it's always more than what the regulars and the whales have. Always more. Because, like, for mods and admins to do their job, and I have seen this cope. I have seen streamers peddle this cope. But to do their jobs, moderators have elevated access. Some of that's trivial. Some of it isn't. Like, my mods can change my stream title, I'm pretty sure. Plaus says, catching more of your je ne sais quoi. Pretty much. But moderators have to have elevated access to do their job. They can change your, depending on your settings, they can change your, like, stream titles, and obviously they can delete messages and all this other stuff, and that's not just, like, on Twitch, but that's also on Discord. Moderators almost always, I can't think of anywhere where they don't, because they have to discuss, like, do we moderate this person in, like, edge cases. They always have a special channel with the streamer to discuss those things. So they have access by default, and I have seen more than one streamer nuh-uh this. That's a peach. That's not a circle. Nuh-uh. I have definitely seen... We'll label this streamer cope. Maybe streamer gaslighting would be more appropriate. But I've seen more than one say that. Where it's just like, oh, my mods don't have any special access to me that anyone else doesn't have. And that's just flagrantly untrue. They're not moderators if that's not true. They're just people. They're just people. You can't be moderators and not have special access. As it doesn't work that way. Moderators absolutely are allowed to, like, vent frustrations about normal members, that if they did that as a normal member in a public space they'd be banned for. Like, let's not pretend moderators don't have privileges. That's silly season. Hey, Potato, what's up? What's up? Yeah, moderators can't do their jobs without this. Admins especially can't. So let's talk about the difference between moderators and admins. Oops, that was supposed to be the eraser. I've already called it the vulnerability jawbreaker. So, like, a lot of moderators in smaller streamer communities, and that's almost all VTubers, because, like, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but fleshies tend to be 5 views, you know, when they hit, like, the top 2. Well, it's probably not the top 2%, but, like, the top 2 of, like, active, they tend to be, like, 5 views. But, like, really, really, really popular VTubers rarely crack mid 4 view, and I only know of one that I see crack 5 view consistently. Yeah, imagine saying like your middle management didn't have any more access than your entry level employees. Like, imagine trying to tell people that. INAC, I'm not going to get into that, but I have heard similar things from similar sources. I have heard similar things from similar sources. I will not repeat the comment out loud or get into that at all. But yeah. Absolutely. So what a moderator is supposed to do, and again, a lot of moderators are modmins, so if you see this and you're like, well, my moderators do all of this, and my admins do all of this, they all have all of these jobs, you probably need to rethink that. I mean, I wasn't going to mention it. I'm surprised INAC did, honestly. Potato. But this is like... This is a thing that, like, I've seen actually threaten... Alright, let's address the elephant in the room. We all know that I've had bad experiences with bad moderation teams that we have all shared. But, there's a lot of damage, a lot of real damage that a moderator can and has done to streamers. And that's what I'm here to tackle. INAC says, I'm high I'm high on Vikes, I shouldn't be listened to too much. Yeah, whatever. Whatever, dude. Like, we know I've had my experiences, but, like, this is to keep people from having bad experiences as the streamer. Not as a participant, not as a chatter, not as the audience. This is for streamer protection. That's the focus of this. We can get into chatter protection later, though, because there's absolutely another side to that. We had that one... Rika probably knows that. Who was that streamer that got murked by one of her whales because she abused him financially in Japan? Or was that South Korea? I forget which one of those two it was. I think it was Japan, though. Like, late 2024, I think that murder happened. Sometime in October. Plaus says, I mentioned her name a couple streams ago. Yeah, we know who I'm talking about. Let me Google that for the sake of the VOD, so I don't have to, like, just leave that unanswered in the VOD. Streamer in Japan killed by viewer. Irie Sato, I believe. Kenichi Tanaka. I believe that was the one. Was that the one? Yeah, that one. Oh, Plaza already put it in chat by the time I tabbed over to Google it. Yeah, so like she financially we talked about this a few streams ago about like playing with men's emotions being like one of the most dangerous things you could do for your physical safety. This is an example of that. So she took advantage of like his parasocial feelings for her to like fleece him for money and then flaunted it in his face eventually. Like eventually I think she just like flaunted it in his face. And while the legal proceedings with that were going on, he murdered her. So Saru says he loaned her extensive amounts and she never repaid, so not quite the same as the whale. Okay, so she ghosted him. I thought one of the reasons he got mad was because, like, she may have ghosted him, but it was clear on her streams that she was using the money in ways that it was not intended to be used. The court decided in his favor, that much I remember. Like, I remember, like, one of the reasons he got super mad was because she was definitely, like, live streaming the lifestyle she was using this money to pay for instead of paying the debts off that she told him the money was for. And yeah, the court decided in his favor, and he still waited for a year. I remember that being the case as well, Saru. Like, it's vague, but, like, the whole point is that there's a side to this where, while today we are focusing on the streamer side of the safety equation, there's definitely room to focus on the chatter side of this equation. Where moderators might be involved, but also the streamer themselves could be involved because there are power dynamics there that create problems. So a moderator basically is a community-focused position. And a few things that they could be expected to do, but maybe not all of them, but at least a few of them. Inex says BRB. Enjoy your break. Sorry says, but there have been streamers that moved in with helpful air quotes mods and ended up in trouble. Oh, we're going to talk about that. Community focused, so they could be accepted to intercept messages. And when I say that, I mean, like, generally they act as a go-between between the audience and the streamer when DMs need to happen. That's not every streamer, but I'd say the vast majority of them have their moderators intercept direct messages intended for the streamer and pass them along secondhand. They remove unwanted messages. And they also can be expected to remove unwanted chatters. And that's basically all a mod does. If you have your mods doing more than that, they're actually also... We'll erase the art here to make room for it. I'm keeping the accessibility drawbreaker. Maybe I'll start another page. So an administrator might be expected to do stuff like troubleshoot OBS issues. I don't see a lot of admins doing that, but that could be something that they could do. Configure Discord. Not every mod can do that in a competent way. Not a lot of admins can do that in a competent way, but admins could be expected to configure a Discord. They could be expected to push updates to various platforms. Maybe maintain bots. So a mod might also publish announcements, but an admin might do that as well, because they're more of an authority figure. Which is weird, because, like, I frequently see streamers and content creators treat admin as a level above moderator, but it's not. They're just, like, completely different jobs. Like, just because you have an admin that maintains your bots does not mean that they should be trusted with intercepting community messages. Like, they're completely different trust zones. Oh, hey, Dev's here. What's up, Dev? Also, there are VTubers who were controlled by their boyfriend/mod. Oh, we can get into that, too. I'll put a little note here. BF mods. I'll just stick that there for later, because we're going to get into that. Because BF mods are really, really common, because they tend to be a little more reliable than doing this with a rando. But, like I said, we'll get into that trust tree later. Boyfriend mods are like between modmins and you on the accessibility jawbreaker. Yeah, best friends and stuff. Those tend to be admins. They just tend to be like the highest level modmins. Red would disagree. Dev says, better make your partner your admin, give them server ownership. Bad breakups are not a thing, IRL. Yeah, there's risks to that. I got banned on that Discord, tested that. God, I just saw a story today about that, where an admin would get, or a moderator would get jealous of people that the streamer started to like and would make up excuses to ban them. That's a pretty common thing, actually. You really have to keep an eye on your moderators, and we'll talk about that later too, but these are like the fundamental differences between these positions, even if you regularly have them doing both, which I don't suggest. These are different skill sets. Like your average autistic IT stereotype guy is well suited for this, but they tend to be very poorly suited for this. Very poorly suited. Oh yeah, we'll talk about modding your mods later. Let's see. Saru says, I guess I always have the military definition of admin, especially a paper pusher, or basically a paper pusher or glorified secretary. Yeah, my view of it is closer to that than the way a lot of people treat them. But, you know, I actually have business experience, so you see the problem with defining these roles is that a lot of these people like did this willy-nilly during the COVID boom and are not trained in business whatsoever and do not fundamentally know the difference between these roles, nor do they really have a desire to learn it. So like learning that these roles are separate and that they should have separate responsibilities and privileges and access is actually something that can make you more secure basically overnight. Um... Hey now, I've never stuck around testing long enough to be officially diagnosed. So, that's because autism has a very, very high correlation rate with ADHD. So, of course, you didn't stick around the testing for very long. This Venn diagram is practically a circle. So your autistic, ADHD-riddled IT guy might make a very good admin, but he might make a very, very poor moderator. And that gets us into our first RM-specific postulate. That's 2 A's. I'm going to take the time to write this out. I might clip it. And make it an image that I use regularly. The moderator availability principle. Pretty sure that's the correct form of principle for this. The people. Y'all have heard me say this a few times. The people most suited to moderate a community are the least available to do it. Anybody have some guesses of why this is? We'll make another image for that. I'll use deep blue. Why is that? We'll fit what we can under here. Because, like, moderators deal with people. Where is a streamer? Where is a streamer getting their moderators? Dev says, because they're already working overtime and generally people who want power shouldn't have it. We'll get into the wanting power part. That's separate from this, but it is an important point, and I'll just go ahead and write it, because I'm going to get to it later. This will be in the mods selection section. People who want power shouldn't have it. But that's separate from the availability principle. So we're just going to separate that with a penis. Because they know how much time it actually takes to mod properly. No. So this is all about availability, not about suitability. So, moderators deal with people. Moderators for a community tend to come from that community. And what kind of people do most streamers target? It's people with a lot of free time. With low social commitments. Inac says Degens, when that comes to like VTubers and particularly like female streamers, so let's go ahead. Do that. Anybody doing anything GFE or GFE adjacent? Absolutely, Inac. It's the Degens. Bataten says people like me. Plaus says the Jorkers? Absolutely. So, like, I don't want to really limit this to, like, just the subset of streamers that are, like, doing the GFE stuff, or VTubers in general. But, that's a very important part of it. They tend to be socially inexperienced. So that's a problem when you have somebody who's supposed to be, like, moderating social interactions with people. They're socially inexperienced from the get-go. People who watch streams tend to be largely in the 21 to 30-year-old male cohort. The people who are in your community the most active, tend to be unemployed, which is why they can be the most active. Especially your mods. Generally, this is... We're talking generally. Streamer in chat alert. Hey, Nero, what's up? Kaviri says modding is a job. Streamers don't pay mods, and if mod has a regular job, they don't have time to be a mod. Yes. But they also have other social... that's a big part of it. But they also have... They tend to have other social obligations. Which is why they have money in the first place. I've noticed that it tends to actually not be whales that end up making mod. And that's also for that reason. Like, there's a reason they get that money. Kaviri says they also have a family, like a wife or something. And yeah, that's true. That's true. But it's also very, very rare in the communities you're thinking about. Like, Asmon has a lot of married chatters. Not sure if Destiny does. Nero says, I had a good mod and she got a job. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, like, Waifu was Nero's mod for a bit, before she left the house to get employment, and, like, she barely makes a stream a week anymore. Right? I think it's, like, maybe one stream a week she makes for you, Nero. Sometimes not even that. Nero's in the middle of, like, a big old crunch at work. So, like, yeah. Killing my numbers. Yeah. She's great at timing me out. Dev, the pro move is to work from home and have a third monitor connected to your personal PC laptop. Yeah, I'm actually forbidden from working at home. In person only. When it wasn't in person only was the years that I was the most active in any community. And you were around for that. You were around for that. So they're socially inexperienced. They tend to be... Let's be precise here. More likely to be unemployed, either currently or... Like, either they've never had a job, or they're between jobs, or, you know, something like that. People with the time to be in your community visibly enough that you want them to be a moderator, they tend to be... They are more likely to be unemployed. I've seen a lot of mod teams with, like, some really cool people in it. They tend to be the admins, by the way. Those people, like the very gainfully employed people, they tend to be the admins instead of the moderators. But the most prolific mods tend to not be employed. And if all of your mods are employed, like if you have a mod team full of gainfully employed people, you're doing something correct. but this still applies. The people most available to moderate are the people least suited for it. Like, you just read this, it makes sense. And this is why a lot of people think they can get out of this by having applications. We'll go through that in selection later, but that's not generally the case. So if you're socially inexperienced and you're unemployed, you are not gaining new social experience outside the moderation environment. Nero says, you mod my streams, I mod yours. No. So, like, they're not gaining social experiences outside of the community, generally. Mama taught me how to not mod the skin. Very good, Plaus. Dev says, makes sense, as I've grown up the org chart since the thing. I've had less and less time for Twitch, Discord in general. This is pretty much the only time I have to watch streams now. Yeah, so I intend on, like, when I get my second stream of the week, because that's coming, when I spin up my second stream of the week, it's going to be like a co-working style stream, because that's like a new category in Twitch that I want to explore. But I think I'm going to use the co-working streams to, like, read new white papers and do that sort of stuff. Which also, so I can, like, double dip my CPEs there, because I get CPEs from, like, basically running the stream, but also CPEs from reading the material, and then I can use the stream as evidence that I actually read the material if I get audited. So that's strats. I just got put in charge of a new team, actually, and, like, the more time I spend on my job, like, the less time I spend here, and the more time I spend, like, doing work at home, the more I climb the ladder. Like, it's night and day, and I'm sure Dev has been through this. Like, if you make your entire life your job, you climb pretty quick. Now, I tend to not do that on purpose. And actually, my bosses, both of my bosses, I have, like, a direct report and also what they call a dotted line. It's an org fuckery thing, that I could explain on maybe some stream that's not focused as much as this one, but basically both of my bosses, plural, just do not want me interacting with work at all when I am off the clock, whether remote or otherwise. So that's pretty cool, because I can't say that about a lot of places. Saru says, OpCon and AdCon? What's that? I'm sure con means, like, condition, because it almost always means condition. But I'm not familiar with those two 5-letter terms specifically. Like, operational condition and... Nero says, are they hiring? Not for what you want, buddy. Not for what you need. Anyway, so again, this is a generality. I don't want to hear about, but my mods, well, if you're doing it correctly, good for you. This is for people who don't understand this. This principle is for people who haven't navigated moderation selection very well in the past and might need some help, right? So, more likely to be unemployed. More likely to be socially inexperienced. More likely to have ulterior motives. Where is that Google study? It is on my desk. I'm going to get it right now. We're going to take a break in a minute, but I'm going to get this Google study right now. Let's see. Abstract. Predatory behavior in cyberspace. Not that one. Here it is. So if you're listening, the paper is titled "It's Common," or this is a quote, Plaus. All right, this is a quote. "It's common and a part of being a content creator," end quote, colon, "understanding how creators experience and cope with hate and harassment online," is the title. Yeah, how that sentence was structured made me stare too, which is why I wanted to tell you that was a quote. Yeah, that hurt my brain. "Understanding how creators experience and cope with hate and harassment online" is the actual title of the paper, but it's prefaced with that quote. Prefaced, if that's how you say that in your neck of the woods. And one of the findings in the paper, which I'm not sure how accurate it is, so at some point, even though all of this data is anonymized, at some point they mention that one of the respondents is Amaranth, and she's talking about a situation that we know to be false. So there's that. But the largest cohort is 25 to 34, and that is oh, sorry, no, actually it's 35 to 44. But those are basically tied. Let's see. Was that the demographics of the viewers, or let's see. Oh, no, that's the demographics of the streamers. Sorry. Demographics of the streamers, the largest cohort is 35 to 44, and then it goes large. It gets the south of that cohort is more prevalent than north of that cohort. Pre-facial RM. I'm reading this in the fucking dark. Why am I doing that? Let's see. In the cohort they selected, which was 132 content creators, 0% were transgender. 0 reports out of 132. So that was interesting. Because I see a lot of transgenders like trying to break into the content creation space. And let me tell you, Google was not wanting to not, or Google is not a company that would exclude that community on purpose. We'll say that. So they did like 135 content creators, and 0 reported as trans. No, it was not taken from small VTubers. Anyway, there was a finding in here. They talk about limitations. There's a lot of those. But they did do some small ones. But their data basically found that there is a low-level gap in whether or not you're more likely to be targeted if you're a female. And at low viewership levels, that gap is really big. But as you get higher, the gap closes completely, and eventually men end up more targeted for harassment than women at the higher levels of streaming. So that was a finding I was very interested in. And that's one of the reasons I'm not really focusing on the female experience here, even though, like, with my background, I totally could. And maybe I'll throw some bones there, because a lot of the risks from moderators comes from, like, what we were talking about, the deadly sins the other day, or the other week. Jealousy, feelings of betrayal, and basically, any other sort of falling out. Like, think of a major emotional falling out. But these two are the big ones. You can put money here. Yeah, see, that's another thing. You also have to deal with, like, Google's definition of harassment, which is pretty fucking broad. I think it might even be reflected in this data. Like, if you select purely for stalkers, it's women, like, by far. Maybe I'll read the paper on a co-working stream when I spin those up. Or maybe I'll just have a stream where I go over this study, because it's pretty interesting. And I'll be more structured about it. It's a large study, though, so if you want to, like, read it on your own... how many pages is this fucking thing? That's at least 20. But if you want to read it on your own, it's called Understanding How Creators Experience and Cope with Hate and Harassment Online. And it's done by Google research by Kurt Thomas, Patrick Gage Kelly, Sonny Consolvo, Consolvo. I cannot read that name, but I will try. Petrawat Summermit? I'm sure. Patrawat space Samermit, and then Ellie Burstein are the authors. It's a really good paper. I enjoyed reading it. There were some things in there I wasn't expecting, but, like, obviously there's some limitations to their method, and data gathering on content creators is still a big pain in the ass, because a lot of them still value their privacy to a degree where they will just not willingly answer surveys that are distributed in the manner that normal surveys are distributed. And I don't know if you've ever surveyed large groups of people, but if you're in that business, I'm sure you know why and you've encountered this. But, or maybe you haven't. But, like, these two are the big ones. These two are the big ones. Money might also be a big one. Like, if you give a streamer $3,000, right? And then she or he gives you, like, the cold shoulder. That probably causes feelings, right? We can agree that probably causes feelings. It causes feelings in, like, every other aspect of life. Like, if you gave, like, $3,000 to your roommate, and then they brushed you off the next day, you'd probably be pretty mad at them. You could probably put that under betrayal, though, because, like, even though money's involved, that's kind of like a betrayal feeling. Motive is complicated, man. Motive is pretty complicated. Best I can give is $1. You don't have to give any dollars. Let's see. Nero says Twitch offered me $5 to take a survey and I didn't do it. Yeah, because $5 isn't, like, near enough for a survey to begin with. I think, like, $20 is the floor. There's a lot of surveys I've seen being offered on campus, and it's like $20 is absolute minimum. I would even consider it. And the ones I see for, like, $20 or north of $20 tend to be under 50 anyway. And they're, like, crazy shit like, hey, would you like to get paid $35 to be a married couple and be invasively observed over the course of 2 fucking weeks? Like, bro. Like, they're like that. I don't know if anybody's been on a campus recently, but, like, you should go to the bulletin boards, like the public bulletin boards, and just look, like, for calls for research volunteers. They're all like that. Hey, sweetie, what's up?
How much are these surveys?
Don't. Do not. Anyway, we're talking shit about mods.
Ugh. Right when I walk in.
Yeah.
Fabulous. I'm a terrible mod. I'm not even interested.
Dev says, sorry, I don't accept cash for surveys, only phone numbers. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, man, like, if you're hurting for some cash, I mean, you'd have to do, like, 10 of the $10 ones in a day. That would suck. Nero says, oh, she shows up now. I agree. I agree. Inax says, if there's any cash involved, yeah. Yeah, just, Go to the nearest campus and, like, look at the public bulletin boards. They will frequently have, like, research opportunities, volunteer opportunities up there. I won't say they'll have them, like, every day, but, frequently. It's 7:30 and we have taken 0 breaks. I need to fucking pee. So we're gonna take a 5-er. Doo-doo-doo. Let me turn this music up. Turn my mic off. Hit the BRB screen. I really should have slid that. Or faded that a little more gracefully. Forgot! Oh well. We're back. Maybe getting affiliate and forcing yourself to have hourly breaks is not a bad idea. Meeting. Yeah, maybe. Thanks, Nick. All right. So the fridge temperature is dropping, but it's dropping slowly. We got a problem. So I think I'm gonna have like a hard cutoff at 8:30. Right, you're not looking at my clock. An hour from now. So we're gonna try to get through this. So basically, no job, no kids, no education, no bitches. That's the majority of the population available to moderate for you. Waifu's jumping to conclusions about the compressor. I'm not sure it's the compressor. So if the refrigerator is dropping temperature, but it's dropping very, very slowly, that tells me the compressor is working, but the blower might not be working. So there's a lot of cold air, but it's like stuck at the bottom in the evaporator coils because it's not being moved anywhere. So I think that might be what's going on. And since the compressor is like at the bottom, that would be an even bigger issue. Because I'm pretty sure the evaporator coils are like at the bottom as well. Plaza says, I think Nero can help with the blower. Dev says, I don't know how to tell you this, but wives are always right, no matter how improbable. It's the law. You know what, Dev? You're absolutely right. What we need to do is get a new fridge that is twice as expensive and will break in half the time. That's exactly what we need to do right now. All right, so that's your mod pool. And we were going to get into boyfriend mods. All right, so this is basically what the subject really is. Let's use 80% gray. How? I don't like how. We'll just go with black. Fuck it. I'm overthinking it. How to select moderators, and then we'll get into the consequences of like making bad decisions. Because if we go back to the accessibility jawbreaker, mods and admins have like a lot of access to you. They're like on the next layer of your accessibility jawbreaker to like you. And if you're too close to them, this line blurs even more. So we're going to get into the consequences of doing this poorly after this, and then we'll close up stream. Let's see. Plus says, fridge stream win. Good question. Inax says, realize why I so doubled up accidentally. Oh shit, that's so good. Boyfriend mods has a different meaning in the context of Cyberpunk. I have an admission. I've never played Cyberpunk. All right. So we're gonna go to like the most common thing I've seen, which is the mod application. This is the most common thing I've seen in streamer communities to like select mods, but that's because of like where I spend my time. There's like a specific niche that seems to prefer this over other things. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you, you should probably not do this. Do not. You might think your mod application is like asking the right questions, getting the temperature of the room, blah, blah, blah. No. I have not seen a single mod application that just like the questions weren't telling you the answers to the questions. You guys are absolute shit at making evaluative documents. We're absolute shit at making tests, which is what these are essentially are. You are absolutely shit at making assessment documents. Most of your questions tell you the answer in the questions. Most of you use ABCD selected answers. Like, if you're going to use a mod application, every single question should be an open paragraph answer. God damn it, INAC. You might need to call somebody. Nero, question 1. I need mod blackmail. Type out your top 5 favorite slurs. Right? That's actually funny. I like that. But, like, your questions will be, like... They'll have 4 answers, and only one of them seems even remotely thought out. And you'd be like, yeah, but that weeds out idiots. It's like, is that your bar? Is that all you're doing? Is weeding out people with, like, 70 IQ? That's not a good bar to set. Like I said, I have never seen a mod application that just wasn't... It wasn't completely obvious what the answer should be. It just... You guys are terrible at this, and it's a bad method to begin with. Let's see. So... By the way, Discord itself says don't do this. Now, those of you who have actually read the documents, which is maybe like 3 people in the entire modding community. It's not a community, why'd I call it that? In the entire mod population, maybe 3 of them have read Discord's documents on this, and they don't so you might be jumping on and down and saying, like, oh, they don't say not to use it. They say it's an option. And yeah, it is an option. But they also say, like, if your Discord is personality focused... I'm not writing that down, actually. That's just a waste of time. If your Discord is personality focused, this is a bad thing to do. It's a vulnerability. And every streamer has a personality-focused Discord. Mod applications are actually fine in activity-based Discords. We went over the distinction between those things a few streams ago. But to shorten it up, activity-focused Discords are like, we're going to all play Pokemon Go together, and I'm not even addressing what chat's talking about right now. But, basically, mod applications for, you know, the Discord about whittling, that's fine. But for any Discord that revolves around a personality, they're very bad. You shouldn't do them. Oh, I got a Badoop. Who Badooped me? Who Badooped me? You gotta understand that, like, there are very few servers that can Badoop me at all, so I gotta make sure it's not an important Badoop. Somebody used one of my contact me nows for not that, so we're going to ignore that. Dev says, if I was a personality-based Discord, I'd post applications to make the community feel involved while separately reaching out to those people I actually want and only really considering theirs. I am almost certain that that is a thing. I am almost certain that that is a thing. But, like, if you're actually unironically doing mod applications in a personality-based Discord, and you're not doing what Dev suggested, you're doing it wrong. Last year was a reality check for you? What happened last year? If you're talking about The Thing, that was 2 years ago, champ. That was 2 years ago, buddy. Unless you're talking about something else, in which case, spill the tea to me later. Inac says, holy shit, really? Yeah, it's been 2 years, dude. It's been 2 years in, like, 2 months. Yeah, 2 years in about a month. Nero says, I wish I knew people. Just randomly picking from... Well, not randomly. Picking from the community. We can call this cherry picking. Unless it's cherry, and then we're not picking. Ha 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 ha. This is moderately good. We'll make this blue instead of green. This is moderately good. It has some downsides. Somebody who vibes with you and is in your corner and is somebody who is trustworthy is not necessarily a good moderator. And you won't know that until they start moderating. So, like, there's a way... So, like, there's things from both of these that you want to do. Cherry picking, because they're all virgins, of course. Of course. And, again, the availability of principle still applies here. You're going to get a lot of no's from the people that are the most suited for this. Or they're just not going to be doing the job very much. They might accept, but they might just not do the job very much, and then they're just reading privileged chats and not doing anything. Oh, that reminds me. Tangent, but kind of related to this section. Mod activity audit. There is no reason to keep inactive mods in privileged channels. I see a lot of this. I see a lot of emotional investment in the mod and demod buttons. You can always remod them when they're ready to be active again. And I don't know why this is an issue. People like mod and they make it an emotional thing. Which is another disadvantage of picking from the community. You might pick on a very emotional level. And, I notice that people just do not like to unmod or demod or demote moderators that have gone inactive and that they basically do nothing. This gets even more complicated when you have a modmin, because admins can do a lot of stuff behind the scenes that have nothing to do with modding and then, like, basically don't do any modding work. But what the community sees when they see that is that being a mod is not actually a job, it's just a position that gets you more access to the streamer. Because if they can't tell who's an admin and who's a moderator, and they see that, like, 8/10, 80% of your moderation team doesn't do any moderating at all, they're just like, oh, this is the list of special people that get to interact with the streamer on a more personal basis. Like, what other conclusion would you come to if you saw that? So you need to be doing this, because if you do that and you do mod applications, what you're doing is you're creating a feedback loop where the people applying, like, the competent people are just going to see an inactive mod team and they're just not going to want to apply, because they're going to anticipate, and probably correctly, that if they become a mod, they're going to be doing the bulk of the heavy lifting. And they're not going to apply. But the people who aren't suited for the job and who don't want to be a competent moderator, they see that 80% inactive people, and they're like, oh, this is just a way to get closer to the streamer, so I'm going to apply with the mod application. So you create this feedback loop where the people who are suited to mod are discouraged from applying because they know they're going to be doing a bulk of the heavy lifting, and the people who are becoming moderators just to get close to you are going to be encouraged to do that because both of them are seeing like this 80-20 situation. So you need to be doing this. Demote inactive mods. We do this in cybersecurity with privilege revocation. If you're not actively in a role, you just lose the privileges of that role. Just period. It's a normal thing. It's a security thing. And what we also do, and we don't even have to go into like least privilege here. We do not only like demote inactives, but when we do the audit, we also see who has like privilege creep. So if like we have so if you are sectioning your mods out and you have separate people doing separate jobs, make sure people that like eventually rotate into other jobs are not just acquiring permanent permissions and never losing them. So we call that privilege creep. But here's like the most important one. And this is how you're going to really find people who are there to access you. Are you ready for this one? Mandatory vacations. Set an amount of time to be a moderator. It could be like 2 or 3 months or 1 month or whatever typically gives your mods burnout. I guarantee you that if your mods have been modding for like a year, they have burnout. They're just not telling you about it. They absolutely do. This is non-negotiable. But I'm going to catch up to chat in just a second. I almost forgot this one like twice, so I needed to get that out there. So after that set time frame, you demod them for like 2 months. You may even stick them in like the no-no like soft ban corner so that they can't interact with the community. It's like, you need to go touch grass for 2 weeks because you've been modding for like 2 or 3 months. And this is an absolutely normal thing in cybersecurity. In larger organizations, like, the time frame is going to be longer than this. It's usually like once a year you'll go on a mandatory vacation or something like that. Dev could probably speak to this. But the point is, the mandatory vacation does 2 things. One, it gives you an opportunity to audit activity. So usually somebody else, while somebody's on a mandatory vacation, somebody else will step into their role and start doing their job. And at that point, they're there to either implicitly or explicitly start noticing things. And then they just get to rest and recharge. If you have a mod that, like, we'll put some red flags here. If you have a mod that reacts very negatively to this, or especially this, I'd say like these, like the buns on this hamburger are like the biggest ones. If they have problems with this happening, That's a red flag moment. Gardening leave? Please tell the chat what gardening leave is. That's the first time I have encountered that phrase. Let me catch up with chat a bit. So Nero says, like me asking RM. I'm assuming that's about the asking somebody to competent a mod situation. Yeah, I've preemptively turned down a few streamers at this point. I was modding for years. I don't want to do it anymore. My default will be no. There will be very extenuating circumstances if I'm saying yes. Oops. Let's add one over here while I'm talking about that. But, Dev, you've at least heard of mandatory vacations, right? Like, you say they're rare. But I find like most people haven't even heard of them. We'll get into the blue one in a bit. Potato, I'm not going to read that out loud, but I am reading it. Dev say, seeing the words cherry and virgin next to each other make me laugh hysterically for some reason. Yeah, Dev, I picked cherry as an example because of what you're thinking about and not the virgin reason. I also laughed at that. For the same reason. So, like, picking from the community, you know, cherry picking is like, but we wouldn't pick cherry. You know, cherry's great and all, but no way am I modding. Let's see, Batatin. Oh, I saw a lot of those tweets, Potato. And I was feeling for you. Kaviri, what did you notice in the first month after, or are we talking about? We're talking about probably something I shouldn't be talking about verbally. As someone who wanders little streamers, I've seen this so much. I should have been keeping up with chat. What were you seeing a lot of, Inak? Should I demod waifu? I don't want to. Yeah, you should. Mod rotation, or they go crazy. So when is this asshole losing the sword? You know, Plaus has been really, really well behaved for somebody that I was told did not have the temperament or the mindset to be a moderator at all, and was moderated strictly as a meme. Plaus has been very well behaved, which tickles me fucking pink, because I have seen at least definitely two servers, where the attitude was like, Plaus will be the last person on Earth that is ever modded for any reason. And it's just like, win by doing nothing. Exactly, Plaus. Exactly. Dev says, gardening leave equals you're terminated in the near future and you're getting paid to not work at a competitor in the interim. Oh! Well, that's neat. So basically being put out to pasture. Mod Plaus, he is my alt after all. No. I'm the one with all the alts. Keep up. Friend mod who don't do shit. Yeah, basically. Nero says, so I should put mod Plaus too. I think it would be a wonderful meme to have, like, Plaus modded in more places than some other streamers we know mods are modded, you know? Plaus can just whip out, actually, I'm a moderator in 5 communities and people think I'm great. I think that would be absolutely wonderful to be able to say. BRB modding Plaus. He's just a single point of failure for everybody. Nick's like, I'd love to see that. Yeah, absolutely. Who wouldn't love to see that? That'd be fucking great, man. That'd be absolutely amazing. Just have Plaus modded, like, everywhere. Dude. That would be amazing. Let's see. That would be amazing. I want Plaus everywhere now. Let's see. All of '07 streams Mod Plus. Yeah. Yeah, not that '07's actually a thing or anything. Dude, I love when people ask about what that is. That just tickles me pink because the answer is just so fucking obvious. And if it's not obvious to you, you don't belong in the club. It's the best kind of club. Oh, you don't get the joke? Well, you're not in on it. Let's see. Dev says, crap, now I gotta start streaming so I can mod Plaws. Too bad I'm too lazy to stream. You know, the only reason I'm streaming is because CPEs. And it's... The streams themselves have been fairly low effort, which I'm... Well, I won't say they're low effort. It's like there's a lot of mental effort to recall all the knowledge I'm trying to pass on. And I was actually hoping for a lot more prep time for this stream than I had this week. Like, even doing this once a week is... There's a lot of prep that goes into this, so it better count for my CPEs. Based on what I'm reading, it should. Nero, complete potato excrement. That's just mashed potatoes. I love that on the side of, like, chicken. Hey, Zeno, what's up? Welcome in. Let's see. And then we have those streamers who didn't want to mod him come see Waifu debut, and he's a mod there. Yeah, Waifu's practically a VTuber already. Right? She just doesn't know it yet. Never forget class of '07. Absolutely. Can we get some '07s in the chat? God, that sounded so flesh streamer. Ugh. Ugh. Still waiting on the Honey Badger debut. Okay, so the third way is to actually have paid positions, and I want to know... Yeah, Nero says, yeah, she has a rule 1 of VTubers. Hate Nero, apparently. Ah, you know... But, so paid positions, that's a tactic very few VTubers take, and I'm kind of wondering, like, where they get the money for that, you know? And the reason I say that is, like, VTubers, VTubing is, like, a very low margin, like, I know we're going to talk about the greater tubing in general. They have, like, very low margins. So they've got to be... The way the paid moderator market works across all tubing, across all live streaming, as I understand it, is a combination of the moderators are from countries that the US dollar converts into very well, and also they're moderating for several chats that are all paying them all at the same time. And it's both of those things combined that allow you to pay mods, because the rates for that are pretty low. The only VTuber I know of that does this, that doesn't mean it's the only one that does do it, but the only one I know of is, Ebby? Ebby Co, the shrimp lewd tuber. I was basically rated into Ebby Co, and, like, one of the very first things she talked about was that her entire mod team was paid. And, like, let's talk about what security she is addressing by doing that. And it's something that Kaviri was talking about earlier, which is the principle that absolutely all moderators, and I'm writing that in lowercase so that the all is uppercase, like that stands out more. All moderators are compensated. That doesn't mean they're all paid, but they are all compensated. So if you are a streamer, your biggest question about your moderators should be, talking about my girl. That's not the question. What are they getting in return? Because they're getting something. I made the joke earlier in the stream that the Jannies are doing it for free, but I put an asterisk next to that, and this is why. They're getting something. You don't moderate for free for a streamer for 5 years for nothing. You get kisses from ZV because you modded for me. Oh, there you go. That's one thing you can get. That's one thing you can get. Also, Xeno, welcome to my security stream for, like, I know, I saw your first message there earlier, but, like, I remember you. I know you. I recognize the name. So I'm doing, if you haven't heard the spiel, if you haven't heard the spiel yet, I need CPEs to continue my certification as a CISSP, and I'm way, way behind on them. So I disseminate security-related... the spiel. I disseminate security-related streaming advice on my Twitch channel in return for CPEs that will allow me to keep my certification, in addition to my annual maintenance fee, because not only do I have to show that I've been learning the entire time, but I also have to pay them like $300 a year. So, I'm definitely going to do the homework and show that I've done the homework, and this is how I've chosen to do that. So that's what we're about here. And once I get more comfortable, I'll probably throw in like a gaming stream every so often. But apparently I get an hour per hour, or 1 CPE per hour. I need 40 per year. You do the math. But that's why we're doing what we're doing. Anyway, all moderators are compensated. What they are getting in return is up to them. And if you don't know what a CISSP is, I handled that in the first stream, but I'm going to invite you to look that up. When I get stream elements set up, I'll probably put that in as a commands, because that's probably going to be a frequently asked question. So, what are they getting in return? Well, Ebico... Is that the spelling? That feels wrong. Spelling check! That's really why I modded Plaws. Is the official channel spelling and grammar police. Ebico is right. Cool, thank you. So we can erase the question mark now. So Ebico solved this problem by making the compensation explicit. And you will find that a lot of the people, not a lot, you will find that a more common solution for flush streamers, and also a more common solution for adult streamers. Streamers that engage in adult content are very aware of this dynamic, and many of them have zero moderators at all. Many of them have zero moderators at all, and they never, ever, 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 except for the really green, wet behind the ears newbies, they never, ever mod anybody who asks for it. Those are the... As soon as you go, can I mod for you? You are on the shit list. You will never be mod. Now, if you say, can I mod for you, I charge X, you're probably still on the shit list because you're soliciting in their chat. But at least you're not on the shit list of the creepster shit list. You're on the scammer shit list. Those are different shit lists. But Ebico solves this with paid positions. Now, there's one thing I don't think I've ever seen implemented in a Discord before that was in the Discord moderation documents that no one reads that I thought was pretty interesting. Now, there's obviously downsides to this one, too. But I think it solves the problem of a few of them. Now, a community poll or community feedback for who should be mod is going to avoid the picking from the community bias. It's going to avoid lying on applications. It's going to, however, have a weakness with cult of personality. So the community might not pick the best person to be a moderator. They just might pick the most popular person. That's how these things go. But this is actually an excellent suggestion for a position I hardly ever see in VTubing, but is pretty common in other content creation communities, which is a community manager. This is actually a very good way to select one of those, because those guys are supervised by the moderators just like any other community member. So that actually mitigates the downside of it being a popularity contest. But ideally, you're going to want to take elements from several of these, but this is the one you should probably avoid the most, especially if it's an unpaid position. Just avoid this. This is like the worst way to do it. It's also the most common way to do it. But all moderators are compensated, which is why sometimes when you implement these security measures about demoting inactive mods and waiting until they're active again, and you give them mandatory vacations to help with the burnout, but it's also to check for that parasocial reaction. It's also to check for their motives, because somebody who got in the mod team for the wrong reasons are going to be very resistant to these ideas. And I also want to go over another problem with moderators, because moderators are very, very close to like IT administrators, and they have like the same social problems once they are modded. They exist in like a moderator echo chamber. This is another reason I think mod rotation and mandatory vacations are really good. Because if you have regular mod rotation, like, imagine if on your moderation team, you could not serve more than a year and then you are just like, done. Like forever. Like, imagine if you were just done after a year of modding. And then you knew another community member was going to be selected. Remember that mod channel I was talking about earlier? Where you bitch about regular users? Which does happen. Discord actually encourages that in their documentation. The whole everyone needs a place to vent stuff. But if it gets like too personal in here, and you know that you're leaving and somebody else is coming in, you're probably going to be more guarded about this, just off the rip. Unless you're just completely unhinged. So, like, one thing that IT administrators get into a nasty habit about, and one thing I actively teach my newer IT administrators to avoid. I mean, waifu, the term itself is not important. Dev says guilty of the unhinged part. The term itself is not important. What's important is that the moderator knows that eventually they will be forced out, that they will be forced out forever, and that another person in the community will be brought in. Somebody they may have talked shit about. That can keep things a little cleaner. Because a lot of the times what you'll see is like this culture of permamods, where once you're a mod, it almost never, ever stops being a thing. And this is not just a VTuber thing, this is like across all streaming. This is even across like all places where you have mods, so like forums, Reddit. It's not just a Discord thing or a Twitch thing. Inex says PTSD. Yeah, I know. But like this can be a Reddit thing. It just exists. Like, did you know that there's a guy that takes over, or not, he's done a very long march through the adult subreddits to become the primary moderator of those subreddits. And what he actually is a studio plant. And if you're not affiliated with that studio, your content's discriminated against. Like, this is a well-known dude in the adult industry as being like, no, we do not know him, waifu. It's like, this is not a pleasant thing. If you know where to look, you can find threads out in the public outing this guy. But it's a very well-known thing that there's like anywhere between 8 to 12 adult subreddits where there's the same mod. So if you want to find out who this guy is, and you're in a place where you can do it, go to the big, like, adult content subreddits, like, right now, and look at the mod list. Go to another one, look at the mod list. If you start seeing the same name over and over, it's that guy. It's that guy. And he enforces his personal preferences in those subreddits, but he's also an industry plant. And this is actually pretty common knowledge in the gaming scene. So, like, when you're talking about insider threats, that's a pretty big insider threats. He's not in the BD subreddit. Dev. BRB, gonna get modded in all the major software dev subreddits real quick for no particular reason and not to boot myself into the Fang money. You're probably late to the punch on that. Like, this is why Reddit is such a cesspit. Subreddit moderator capture was figured out long ago, but Dev, you should really explore the subreddits around your industry and see if the same names keep popping up. That would be an amusing exercise. But yeah, so, you know, that's part of the insider threat stuff. That's why talking about my Janny hate mod bad can seem like a really kind of petty topic. But once you're introduced to, like, the real consequences of this, it's actually a pretty legitimate thing to be concerned about. I'm going to bring up an example, because we haven't talked about the consequences of getting this wrong yet too much. Is everybody familiar with the Elfin PsyOp situation? I'm going to explain it anyway, because, like, this is for VOD. Saru says, what? Do you mean 10% of the Reddit mods take care of 90% of the subreddits? Would I suggest such a thing? Would I suggest that? Okay, so I believe her name is like... No, Riri is like the French one. That situation is different. Elfin PsyOp is, yeah, the gooning too close to the sun situation. So we're not going to talk about the morality of it, because I think it's actually kind of fine. What I think it's actually... You know what? That writing it that way just communicates the opposite of what I said. I need to get more experienced at talking with my drawings. But, I only goon to seabirds. Excellent choice. Let's see. Dev says, pretend I live under a rock and the rock only gets Crunchyroll. Okay, I'll pretend that. So there's a VTuber named Elfin PsyOp. I think her content's pretty alright. She is actually going to school for cybersecurity. So she has, like, a glowy personality. So, like, I really vibe with her, like, a lot. And she has no clue who I am. But, like, I'm not really active in her community at all. She streams when I work. Like, it's a whole thing. And she streams on YouTube. But, she also has a drinking problem, and I'm not sure I want to support that. Anyway, the thing is, she would have, intimate voice video calls in Discord with like her community and like one-on-ones, I'm assuming, but also with some of her moderators. But it was always a casual thing, but one of her mods caught feelings and thought like he was special. So when she cut him off, he basically did this scorched thing where like he's leaking mod chat and he's making shit up and he's framing things in a way. Like, this is how I understand the situation. It doesn't matter really if I have the details right, because the point is the mod took the content and spread it around. Which is funny because I've been told that, like, I shouldn't expect privacy in DMs, so with moderators. So anyway, that's a bit of a kludgy. But yeah, he was a red flag, and he called a few of the other people victims, even though everybody was over the age of consent. And they were all adults. They were all consenting adults, and he started like calling these people like grooming victims. Inax says, RM, if there's anyone who should know that. Yeah. I know. I was told that by the people who did that, and every single other moderator seems to have kept my confidence. Every other moderator seems to be under the understanding that DMs are DMs. We used to call those, for the youngsters in this chat, DMs used to be called PMs, and the P stood for private. Just a fun little internet factoid. We used to call direct messages private messages. Just throwing that out there. Then we all became mean girls, and we realized calling them private messages set expectations that probably weren't the best, and we started calling them DMs. Because, like, anytime you and your internet buddy have a falling out, your private messages get leaked. And that's what happened to Elfin Psyop. And it causes her a lot of stress, apparently. Like, if I'm taking her word for face value, and she posts about it when it comes up, and it doesn't seem to be a pleasant thing for her. So, this stuff really does have consequences. Who you pick as your mod really does have consequences, and you really should evaluate their red flags as best as you can. And when you're sitting there in your echo chamber with your mods, like, we know that the chat reflects the streamer, right? Well, the mod team also reflects the streamer. But the mod team reflects a more private version of the streamer. So, like, if the chat reflects the happy side of the mask, then the mod team probably reflects the sad side of the mask. And why wouldn't they? Because what is the mod team talking about in private? This is the most important thing you have to understand about community mods, and why I don't think any mod should be a moderator for any longer than 2 years. Like, dead maximum. Once they hit that limit, retire their asses. They've done their bit. You can give them a special role to, like, recognize them for that. You can, recognize that work to you without making them, like, just regular chatters anymore. I'm not gonna, like, tell you how to manage this. There are options. But, like, what are mods going to talk about in mod chat? What are the mods going to talk about in mod chat? They're going to talk about things they can't say in public. Waifu's throwing out a bunch of stuff that's not true. Oh yeah, I can't forget the feet pics. Like, obviously they're talking about the feet pics, but they're talking about things that they can't say in public. So if the moderation team is talking about something they can't talk about in the public chat, what is it generally? It's going to be one of two things. It's going to be either private streamer info or negative chat behavior. So obviously, the more well-behaved your chat is, the less of a factor this is, but this is always a factor. Mods are swimming in negativity. Because that's where it comes. You're sending the tickets about the problem you have with Chatter XYZ. You're sending tickets about how you don't like this or don't like that, and that's all the moderator talks about in the echo chamber. So what do you think the echo chamber looks like after a while? So when I talk about rotating the mod team, I'm talking about a complete full replacement. Yeah, training the new guys is gonna suck without the old guys. I get it. Maybe your admins do that in a limited capacity. But, like, I think you should rotate them all out at the same time. All at the same time. Which also gives you a chance to delete their chats about other chatters. Because you won't have any crosstalk there. Because one of the things I've noticed with other moderation teams that I've been a part of is, like, if they ever talked about you, those messages are deleted. Sometimes the entire mod chat is deleted every time they get a new moderator. And you could just set that expectation. It's like, once this mod team is rotated out, that mod chat is also deleted/destroyed. And you can just have that as, like, a public expectation. But, like, yeah. So, like, what do you think the mod chat echo chamber is going to look like if there's a lot of this going on? Do you think that's not going to affect the streamer at all? I can guarantee you it does. Like, both of these are a two-way street with the streamer. Both of them are. But one of these is going to be, like, more private than the other. So one of the things you should avoid is having, like, social conversations in the echo chamber. Don't do that. I know you do that. I absolutely know you do that, but don't do that. Stop today. Don't have social conversations in the echo chamber. Always take those to public chat with your moderators. Any of them starts talking about social shit, tell them to take that public. Because that's where good stuff lives. Don't get in a situation where you make, like, the bad stuff live in the echo chamber, but also the private chats with the streamer also exist in the echo chamber. That is a recipe for disaster. If you've ever had, like, has anybody ever had an HR department do that? Because it's kind of like the same thing. Like, you have the HR department, and then they start talking to finance, and they start talking to communications, and all the Karens from communications and finance start talking to HR and they form like this really toxic clique. It's kind of like that. And if you have like all these guys in this toxic clique and they're talking to like the CEO, do you think for a second their personal preferences aren't going to start reflecting in the CEO's decisions? Because they are. Who gets promotion, who gets tenure, all that shit. It's not different with moderators. Moderators are not special. Moderators are just... Wow. Moderators are just people. And if moderators are just people, you have to really think about why they get the reputations that they do. And you'll notice that, like, different moderators on different platforms have different reputations. Plaus just... I'm starting to think these moderator guys are bad dudes. Oh no, Zeno knows Plaus is a mod now. What are we gonna do? The secret's out. Ah! But like on different platforms, moderators have different reputations. Almost none of them are positive reputations. Right? But the way that they are negative are different. Oh, the castle already knows. That's funny. Caught. Okay. So, like, let's do, like, an audience thing before we wrap this up. What are the negative stereotypes of moderators and with which platform? Come on, guys, throw me some. Dev, am I just weird for generally liking the mods in all of the communities I've been in? That might be selection bias. You're probably in a bunch of communities that do actual work, and probably not in communities that are based around personalities. Yeah, you've got Discord kittens. So in Discord, the mods are kind of known as, they have a reputation for being groomers. Sorry, not sorry, that's their rep. And that gives you Discord kittens. Like, have you seen the Beluga videos? They're absolutely fantastic because everybody who's been on Discord for more than a month can relate to the Beluga videos. So on Reddit, mods are known for power tripping. They would never. I'd say another thing that Reddit mods are known for that's kind of related to power tripping is extreme gatekeeping. Like inappropriate levels of it. Let's see. What about... What are the mods known for on YouTube? This is a little bit of a trick question. But I've talked about why this is in the past. Dev goes, YouTube has mods? That's exactly correct. Fucking auto mod. Fucking auto mod. I love how YouTube has their platform configured such that the expected behavior is for the streamer to not have mods. And why would YouTube be arranged that way? It was because YouTube is a mixed content platform. There's no need to, like, have this expensive, moderator-focused, chat environment when most of your content isn't even live content in the first place. So what YouTube does is it has, like, really terrible real-time modding tools and expects streamers of most sizes to just crutch on the auto mod. And that's why... that's one of the things that really separates out Twitch and YouTube culture in general. Is that the expectation for all Twitch content is to be live content, and YouTube does not have that expectation, and it shows up, like, the product of the system, how you view the moderators is a product of the system at a technical level. The technical design of the system is why we have all of this easy-to-identify, all these easy-to-identify trends. Is because the system encourages it. Or discourages the converse. Or, not the converse, the inverse. It discourages the inverse. So what's Twitch mod known for? What are they known for? Because nobody's brought up Twitch mods yet. But they do have a rep. Discord loves grooming. In more ways than one. Having a huge throbbing sword. Yeah, I'd say Twitch mods are known for having the biggest PPs. Unicorns? Explain that one to me, because, like, when you say unicorns, Inac, I'm thinking of, like, threesomes. Like, you gotta... or stuff sold at Bad Dragon. Like, you gotta explain that one to me. Kaviri says enforcing rules selectively. Selective enforcement. That's not how I see Twitch mods. I think this is the first time where we're going to have like a meeting about it. The way I see Twitch mods is shoot first, ask later. Adult content creator brain for real. Caught. And no mods exist for you. Yeah, also no escalation. But the timeouts, like the punishments... See, now I have to erase no escalation, because there's two types of escalation. Punishments escalate. Appeals do not exist. So if you get, like, banned off the rip, you're probably just gone. But there's a lot of, like, 6-second timeouts. There's a lot of... We'll say... That's... I think... Yeah. Shoot first, then draw the target around the bullet hole. That's great, Potato. That is great. I love that. But yeah, Twitch is trigger happy. Because they have, like, a lot of granularity to the punishments. Like, they can time you out for 1 second. They can time you out for 6 seconds, 60 seconds, 600 seconds, permaban. You know, they have all this, and then there's, like, an appeal button. So, Twitch encourages mods to pull the trigger quickly, A, because the chat is always live, and quick decisions need to be made. And B, there's an appeal recourse for the infraction itself. Now, do appeals ever work? Generally not, unless you're getting farmed for content. Like, there's appeals for content farming. But, like, generally, if you get the permaban, it's because you did something that the mods really didn't like. So I encourage you to read rules. I encourage you to read rules. But yeah, Discord is also known for... When you do something bad in Discord, what tends to be the outcome? Nick, oh boy, do I know that one. I know you do. No escalators, only teleporters. But, like, outside of a few examples, we all agree with these kind of archetypes, right? It tends to be either, like, a ban or a verbal warning. With, like, nothing in between. Like, timeouts do exist, but they're very rare. There's almost nothing in between there. And is there an appeal mechanism for Discord? Like, there can be, but the platform discourages it because of the way it works. Now, if you really want to have your Discord have an appeal system, I actually had that in some of my Discords. We set up channels for basically where we could, like, give somebody a naughty person role so that they basically lost access to everything and the only thing they could do was appeal their ban. So we kind of, like, invented the system for this, but almost nobody does this. They just, like, kick you, and, like, unless you know the mods personally, you basically have no recourse for appeal. Because the platform doesn't provide one. Twitch provides one. I don't think YouTube does, but I've never been, like, modded on YouTube at all. Reddit, their appeal system is the fact that you can basically just, mod mail mods at any time. Basically, unless they also block you, which is a thing, but, like, Reddit's appeals are basically DM the mod staff. That's how their appeals work. Because being banned from a subreddit doesn't stop you from, you know, the communications on that platform between users are platform-wide. They are not restricted to subreddits in scope. But anybody with any common sense in Discord has their DMs locked down to who they share servers with at the least secure. And a lot of people have it locked down to where you can't DM even if you do share a server. But, like, at the least secure, most Discord users have it to where you have to share at least one server. Unless they're, like, 13. But, like, my point is, like, we have moderator archetypes that are widely agreed on for all these platforms, and what I wanted to illustrate is that it's a consequence of how the platform is technically configured. Dev says, if I did that, how would I find all these great artists wanting me to make models and backgrounds for cheap? You know, everything does have a price. By the way, one thing I always love to bring up, one thing I really love to bring up, Twitter mods. Plaz says, just get an orbiter that traces other people's art. Not gonna say it. Get some kloogies in chat. Twitter does not have mods that are not platform mods. And I would propose that Twitter is no more toxic than any random Discord I've ever been in, regardless of how much or how heavy-handed the moderation is. People might disagree with me. I'm actually looking for feedback on this one. But like Twitter with no mods is like no worse than a social Discord, and definitely not worse than Reddit. Yeah, that's fine, Inet. Plus says getting canceled is the new meta. I can sell you a Google Docky attacking you for 10 cents a word. Oh, man. Plaus, know your worth. Double that at least. 20 cents a word. Kaviri says he can agree on that. Yeah. But, like, one of the things about Twitter is, like, Discord and Reddit both have this duality where they serve communities that are both around personality and also hobbies or activities. And Twitter doesn't have that. Twitter is all personality. Do you think that might have informed their opinion on whether or not to have moderators? What other social medias do we know that don't have moderators? Facebook, right? Because it's not just that they don't have communities about, like, personality. Twitter does not have communities at all, and neither does Facebook. These platforms are built around one-to-one reactions, but in, like, a one-to-many setup. If that makes sense. Like, in Twitter, you broadcast your opinion out, and then you get interactions back from it. And you kind of do the same in Facebook, but Facebook starts with the assumption that this is a contained unit. And on Twitter, it starts with the assumption that this is massively public. But neither of them have, like, moderators. Well, not that are not moderators for the platform instead of a community. These... And it's important to understand these things when you're deciding how you want your mod team to work, because understanding these things allows you to understand the pitfalls that your moderators are likely to fall into. So Discord and Reddit, they're like almost the same thing. They just have a couple of different modalities to them. Reddit's not as live, and the post velocity's not as high, and Discord's more of a live shared experience, and that basically forms the difference between the two platforms. One of the things Discord mods run into, and this is related to the echo chamber, one of the things they can do to your community, through selective enforcement, and I've seen this a few times, is that they can gatekeep threats. And what are threats to the moderator? A moderator that's here for the wrong reasons, that is. Popular chatters. People that seem to be poised to become future moderators. Basically, people that threaten their position. Waifu says the mom groups are the most toxic I've been. Of course, because they're all queen bees. Mothers are always queen bees. Like, and that shouldn't surprise you. Like, by nature, a mom is going to have queen bee syndrome, so you get them all into a Facebook group, what do you get? Now, what's a real bad problem, and we'll go back to mod selection. we'll go back to the mod selection thing. One of the really bad problems here is that in content creation, but especially in VTubing, the rules effectively present no opportunity for self-policing. Good vibes only. So if a bad egg gets into your jawbreaker, these are like like a chatter virus. These people cannot block this person. And neither can these people. These guys can if he is breaking the rules. And this is one of the things I try to impress to, like, moderation teams of any size in any organization. Like, moderation teams inside of an organization are people like me, right? Like, the IT guys tend to be, like, also the enforcement arm on a technical level. And then, like, HR is the enforcement. Toxic positivity in an industry led by women? Impossible. Yeah, I know, right? So what happens is, because these people generally aren't dumb, they know how to skirt the rules. So it's like a 50-50 whether these guys will stop the person from getting all the way here. And I know, like, these arrows don't make sense out of context, so that's whatever. Like, you can't show this to somebody and expect them to understand it. And I'm going to work on that. I'm going to try to make some of these, like, diagrams make sense eventually, I suppose. But, like, these two layers of your accessibility jawbreaker just can't stop this guy at all. And these guys, depending on how hard they follow the rules, might not stop them either. And then this guy can end up right here in basically no time flat. Because these guys are not allowed to gatekeep. Hold on. And, let's see. I've seen this. Alright, Zeno. I'm gonna put Zeno on the spot, because he's our new chatter. I'm gonna put you on the spot, Zeno. Have you ever seen this person? Or a person like this? Have you ever seen this happen? Where, like, everybody in the community knows this person's a bad dude, and no one can do anything about it? You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Like, are you even still here? I haven't even checked. I don't check my user. I don't check my, user list, so you might not even be here. Now I'm gonna check it. I'm gonna call you out. Users in chat. Yeah. Well, it says he's still here anyway. We won't wait forever, like, for the sake of time. Yeah, the user list doesn't refresh fast enough. No, you don't think you've seen it yet? Okay. Random volunteer. Oh, Inek, the dude is, like, a bad egg that, like, everybody knows is a bad egg, but they can't do anything about him. Because the rules prevent you from, like, doing anything about him. Because if you talk bad about another chatter in chat, like, you get disciplined. I don't know how long you've been in, like, VTuber communities, you know, but you will see this guy eventually. It will happen. A lot of the times they get banned, but not always. Let's go to somebody else then. Or I'll just do the chat in general. What? We'll do another tab. I have so many tabs today. All right, so we're like, come on. We can draw a circle. We can draw a circle. I believe. Yay, we drew a circle. So you have like the chatter virus. Like 7 months, like just VTubers in general. That's very new. Okay, yeah. I don't blame you for not having seen that yet. Or even just in Lena's. Because, you know, only Lena. So we'll call these chatter viruses. All right, chat. What happens to the count of this after an ASMR stream? What happens to this count? Yeah, it goes brrr. Very much up. This increases the viruses. Zeno, I want you to see how many people in chat answered the exact same way in the extreme language they used to describe the increase. Kaviri said it goes burrs. Lirio used the word propagation. Inax saying PTSD. Nick is saying exponentially. Dev is saying, wait, the virus is just horny? Yeah, pretty much. Hey, Kaviri, can we get a Peepo Blush Gentleman? That would be fantastic of you. You don't have to if you don't feel like it. I know it's like really late where you are. You're probably tired. It depends on the timing, Lirio. Like, it's not just running into one, it's like knowing how to spot one. Like, not everybody knows how to spot infiltration techniques. So, like, one thing, if you're a streamer, if you're a chatter, whatever, one of the things you can do is being, like, being overly friendly. Highly gregarious. Like, if you've seen somebody come into the chat and they're just, like, try-harding, they're usually this guy. Because what do most normal people do when they come into a new chat? Most new people come into the chat and they lurk and they read the room. Socially adjusted people. They'll join a Discord and they'll be like a little nervous. And yeah, they'll not say anything. They will lurk. Some people never leave that. Some people are in there for the emotes. What did I walk into? Yeah, they might say that in the Kaviri says write a love letter. Like if they have an altar, yeah, sure. That's exactly what's going to happen. They'll write a love letter. But, I've been accused of being one recently in a 2-view because I was talking nonstop. Yeah, so, like, I was in, Ashley T. Cozy's stream the other day, and we just hit it off. Because I just started talking. People who imagine themselves like internet super sleuths, people with hats that look like this, they don't know how to tell this from just being talkative. Is that an I? Mod! Is that an I or an A? I think it's an I. Talkative? It's A. Son of a bitch. That's like my first major spelling mistake all stream. All stream. I've been doing good this stream. I started to draw the A before I second guessed myself. Anyway. People with these hats. people that imagine themselves like internet super sleuths, they cannot tell these behaviors from these behaviors. And these people might also be guilty of gatekeeping. So even if they can tell, they might pretend that they can't to help them gatekeep. But I think a lot of the times they just don't know how to tell the difference between these two. They've run into a lot of these guys, and they're like super sensitive to seeing everything as this. So like if you have somebody come in and we talked about killer whales a few streams ago. But if you have somebody come in and the first thing they do in chat is like drop $1,000, which you will see that, Xeno, at some point if you haven't already in other communities, particularly adult communities, the money flows a little faster. Waifu says, so weakened your next break. Well, at least I'm not the worst one in this relationship when it comes to forming a sentence. Fucking autocorrect. I too blame autocorrect, and 95% of the time it actually is an autocorrect or autocomplete issue. But I think you're in the 5% right now. Oh yeah, let me read your correction. So, when your next break? When I stop stream. When I stop stream. You can blame autocorrect when you're drawing words. I haven't you can't. I haven't blamed autocorrect tonight, and this is like my first... The funny thing is, if I were typing, I would be drowning in typos, and this is like the first major one I've made all night. Maybe the first one I've made all night. So, yeah. Anyway, they can't tell the difference between these things. So, how do you identify this behavior? Honestly, it's going to take being socially adjusted. People who are not socially adjusted should never do this. But, you know, Dunning-Kruger is a thing. I can give you, like, some examples of this, but I can't teach you how to detect this. You need to touch grass, make friends. And eventually you will start to be able to suss out who is tryharding and who is not. Yeah, it's just experience plus a little bit of awareness. Inax says, so again, I should never mod? Yeah, probably not. I love how you got accused of being an infiltrator in a 2-view just because you started talking a lot. That tells me it tells me that those 2 views already have toxic mods. Or these things. They already have these things. And you're going to find a lot of those in 2 views, because as we were talking about a few streams ago, the more socially isolated the streamer is, which also comes with having a smaller community, the more vulnerable they are to that sort of stuff, and they're specifically targeted, especially 2 views. Why would you need to determine who is tryharding and who isn't? Like we said before, shoot first and draw the target on the bullet hole. Because usually these people are paying money. That's the problem. It's like if you pull the trigger on every one of these, you don't have income. Throne goes away. Constantly using bit redeems to talk directly to the streamer goes away. Sub bombs go away. Like this is an existential income type of thing. Hyper aggressive lesbian mods. I've been told I haven't hit the annoying part of this yet, but my internal compass says I have. My internal compass says I have. I'm gonna cool it with that for a little bit. But also, I'm gonna say this is a really good way to spike the tip jar. This is a really good way to spike the tip jar. This one also does it. This one not so much. Sub bombs can spike the tip jar, but they're more effective when a hype train is already started. Bit redeems can loosen up a room. And don't tell my secret, Xeno, but sometimes I bit redeem in Lena's chat to get other people to start doing it. And it's very effective. Stream element spam goes away when bits don't work. That's true. Dev says, I am in this picture and I'm not sure how to feel about that. I mean, it's all about intent. Bro is a meta simp. Exactly. Works for gifted subs too, not just bits. Yeah, that's the sub bomb. That's the sub bomb. It works better when you're funny. I'm just gonna go mask off real quick. This works a lot better when you're funny. For two reasons. One, if you're funny, the streamer notices the chat more and reacts to it more positively. That's the first thing. These both feed on like the same. I'm talking about how I socially engineer chat to the benefit of my Oshi here. Like that's not manipulative as fuck, but I'm not sorry. And it also triggers people with inferiority complex, or people who are just competitive in general. It's not necessarily the first thing. You can just be like competitive natured. So if you're funny, you're doing both of these, and then people start trying to compete with you almost immediately. People who donate to the streamer to get her attention disproportionately hate it when you do that, and they will throw so much money at her. They'll throw so much money. Like, if I make Lena laugh, I want you to pay attention to the next time I'm in stream and I make Lena laugh with a bit message. I want you to really pay attention. Like, watch what happens. It's funny. It's funny. Let's see. I'm only funny myself. That's all that matters. RM, bitness me. Like, I have my whiffs too. Let's not pretend. Sometimes my whiffs can get very expensive. Like, sometimes you're just not on the same wavelength as the streamer, and you know, that's a bad day at the casino, you know. But I will always be seeding that tip jar. Those are the days where you go like, do me and the streamer have beef? Are we beefing? I don't know. Let's see. But yeah, so back to the fucking point, because I need to wrap this stream up. Overly friendly would be like day one this stuff, okay? Because I know, like Dev was saying, I'm in this picture and I don't like it. But we're talking about doing this shit like day one. Before anyone could be expected to form an opinion of the streamer, they're already doing these things. That's a red flag. That's a red flag. Maybe an orange flag. Oh no, the Lena level brainworms. I never claimed not to have those. I never claimed not to have those. I am... I could have internet anime breasts and it would not fit. Let's see. But, you know, that's a red flag. I have never done this. Not once. Like, as far as like donating to Twitch streamers go, I actually probably would be qualified as a whale or an oiler. I use whale more because we use whale more in the adult industry. Oiler tends to be very VTuber coded, or Twitch coded. So I use this more. I am nowhere near this status in the adult industry. Like, in the adult industry, it's not uncommon to see people coming in and drop $5,000 and then leave forever. It's not uncommon at all. But, I've had a lot of people in a lot of places, some friendly, some not, refer to me as an oiler. I don't think I really qualify for that because where I come from, but enough people have said it, I just adopt it, whatever. I'm a low tier oiler. But, like, some people think anybody who subs tier 3 ever at all is an oiler, so, you know, whatever. Plus, as I've noticed, Lena will read, like, every single one of my chats some days and completely ignore everything other days. I don't bother thinking about it. Yeah, and that's normal. And I don't think about it every time, but I notice. You noticed, or you wouldn't be repeating it back to me. But sometimes I do overthink it. Maybe once or twice a year. But we all notice when that happens. I did a T3 for 1.5. Am I on oiler now? Yeah. Yeah, I think that's just like the nature of it. I think that's the nature of it. And I'm gonna have some real facts for a second. We're gonna have some real talk about that. That is a natural way to feel, but it's also very, very likely that as a business decision, the streamer knows that they have to pay attention to different people on different days. Like, it's a thing. That's a chatter retention thing. You might not like it. You might think that's a little too corpo, but that's a thing. That is definitely a thing. Like, this is a business. It's how the bills are paid. So then you have to fight the brainworms of, am I being paid attention to so that I'm being retained as a customer, or am I being paid attention to because I'm liked? And those can be some nasty brainworms if you let them. If you let those brainworms eat, you're gonna have a rough time. Don't let those brainworms eat. Dev says, does it matter as long as the stream is fun? That's a good question. That's a good question. Here's the better question. Why are you donating? Not you specifically, but like, why are you donating? Be honest with yourself. I am the Wormmancer and don't sample my own supply. Yeah, there's a lot of studies done on, like, so-called parasocial dynamics in chats. It's not as clear-cut as you'd think. We are doing a stream on that. Eventually. Lirio's correct. It can affect your perception of fun depending on your headspace at the time. Absolutely it can. And it's normal for that to happen. That's normal. It's either spend the entertainment budget on Twitch or on Blue Twitter. The balance of power merely shifts between the two. Did you know Did you know that Blue Twitch is owned by the Green site? And I don't know how into the adult industry you are, knowledge-wise, to know what the Green site is. Yeah, I noticed that too, Lirio. Problem with worms is that they're very hard to shoot when they're not your own worms. Okay, so one of the words in the Green site is cams. One of the words in the Green site, and I'm being Twitch careful right now, is free. And one of the words in the Green site is my. That person owns OF. Just fun fact. I have it on good authority that they're not a good person. Just FYI. Can't say for myself. But that's what I hear. From sources I trust. Anyway, let's recap and then we'll close it. One, your access jawbreaker. Be aware of your access jawbreaker. Do not lie to yourself about the fact that the mods and the admins of your server are closer to you than your general community. You will get in trouble if you ignore the jawbreaker. Be generally aware of the concept of insider threats and the difference between administrators and moderators. A second, moderator availability principle. The people most suited to moderate a community are the least available to do it. You don't have to believe my reasoning, but believe this sentence because it is true. How to select moderators. We went over the good ways, the bad ways, and the awful ways. Mod applications are probably the worst way if you don't want to run into trouble. All moderators are compensated. You need to figure out what they're getting in return. Mods live in an echo chamber, and the echo chamber is biased towards negativity by default because of the nature of moderation. Moderators will have problems and pitfalls that are determined by how the platform is architected. Learn those patterns. Learn how to identify chatter viruses, and perhaps consider empowering your community to be resistant to them by empowering them to call out bad behavior without risking moderation themselves. Pronouncing jawbreaker gets worse the more he says it. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. I think my mouth was drying out. I just heard I'm one of the better mods by never being there. Yeah, kind of. Anyway, that's kind of the overview of the stream. With any stream, I tend to open the floor at the end for any general security related questions, particularly cybersecurity, but CISSP covers not just cybersecurity, but perimeter security, social interaction security, process management, risk management. Inax says, could I have you DM these to me since someone I know will be streaming soon, hopefully? Yes. I would also, if you think these slides, for a lack of a better word, are useful to that person, I would also encourage them to watch the VOD, but I will absolutely send these to you. Plus says, today I learned from Professor Government Spy Drone that mods are bad because streamers are bad, platforms are bad, moderation tools are bad, and chatters are bad. Yeah, basically. Basically. All of those are factors. Social interaction security. How do I protect myself by being rejected by pretty seagulls? Well, usually a bag of Cheetos helps, Lirio. She's busy, but we'll see. Yeah, see, that's the problem. Eventually, one day I'm going to go through these VODs and, like, take out the key points And if the audio supports it, just clip it naked. But if the audio doesn't support it, I'll overdub it to make the point more clear and more concise and shorter. Because, like, when you're wearing so many... Like, when you're a streamer, you're wearing a lot of hats. And one of the reasons streamers are poor at security is because, like, security is by definition an overhead activity. And it tends to be something people are just like, I don't have time for this. So, like, if I want the people who need this if I want the people who need this to most to actually ingest it, I have to, like, find the most actionable stuff, put it in shorts, and then throw that up on the channel eventually. That's when I get out of CPE debt and I have more time to make the content more actionable for the people who weren't there for the stream. But that will come after my CPEs look good. Nero says, I used to wear a hat to stream, but it messed up my tracking and I can't anymore. Oh, that sucks, man. Plus, streamers be playing TF2 on Twitch. All the hats. Zeno says, I know a few people that can use this VOD. Yeah. Then send it to them. Or, like, clip a section of it that you think they might need to hear more than the other parts, and just send that to them. Like, this VOD is what? What are we up on the timer? How far into this are we? Let me go to... I actually don't have OBS up. Let me go to OBS. 3 hours 22. Yeah, like, don't send your buddies a 3 hour and 22 minute VOD and be like, hey, you need to watch this. So, like, if anything struck you as like, oh, I need to share this, like, find a timestamp for them. Be nice to your peeps. All right, well, I think if anybody else doesn't have any good questions, I'll call it there. But so far, the questions are good. Nero says, I make a good mom because I'm rarely there. In your face. Lol. Oh no. Zeno not only found out that Plaus is a mod, but Zeno also found out that I stream. I'm totally fucking caught. I sent a 6-hour VOD and it got you a viewer? Holy shit. I mean, Giga Chad. But, holy shit. Yeah, guys. Have a good one. Oh, that was the 5.5-hour VOD. But yeah, that's... Woo! Illyrio outed me in the castle, so that's taken care of. Alright, guys. Alright, guys. I'll see you later. Y'all have fun. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. For those of you who I don't see regularly in Lena's chat, do not forget to toss me a DM every now and then. Because, like, some of you, I miss you guys. Dev, Nick, calling you out specifically. Drop me a line. Potato. I need more of your food of femboys, Potato. Man, if I get audited, the shit the CIS or the ISC2 employee is going to see, holy fuck.